It Takes Two, Inc., a 501c3 Maryland nonprofit organization that provides education enrichment to 4 college-age youth. She's also the founder of Jamila Kemp Consulting, where she teaches people how to launch and manage their nonprofit vision. Philanthropy and outreach are her driving forces, and she's committed to sharing her knowledge and strategies to build better communities and opportunities for as many people as possible.
I never saw myself as a leader. Growing up, I was a bit of an introvert, kind of went to school, went home, had very few friends. I was never really a follower either, so I guess I kind of just fell in the middle. But as we all know, God had another plan. He said, I am going to push you from behind the curtain, which is where I love to be, because I'm a behind the scenes type of person. And he said, you're going to be a leader. And I said, no, I'm not. That's not what I see for myself. But his plan is not my plan. So my first leadership position was that of a mother, a single mother. That's not the plan that I saw for my life. There are a whole bunch of statistics out there that single parents, they fail, and we are the bane of society, and the children that come from our households are the reasons why the world is the way that they are, because there are not 2 parents there. So I dealt with that. I dealt with being an unwedded mother, and I had to figure out life. I had to figure out, what am I going to do to change my life for this human being that I am now responsible for. So outside of just leading my own life, I had to now lead his and to be an example. That forced me to go back to school full time. I have a master's from University of Maryland University College in Nonprofit Association and Management. I also hold a degree in a business administration and management as well. What led me to my second leadership opportunity was that of It Takes Two Incorporated. When it was time to send my son to kindergarten, who's now 15, I couldn't afford food, and I could not afford school supplies at the same time. So it was at that time that God laid it on my heart to say, you know what, although you're struggling with this, you're going to help some other people to get through it as well. But again, I said no, and we don't say no to God. So it kept knocking. It kept coming back to me. And finally, I just took that leap of faith in 2012, and we launched It Takes Two. And to date, we have awarded 21 scholarships totaling over $7,000. And we award school supplies and books and uniforms, and we pay for sports and academic and registration fees so that these young people have just much of a chance as their colleagues do in the classroom. Okay. My next leadership opportunity came when I launched Jamila Kemp Consulting. I said, okay, Lord, I went back and got this degree. I started listening. I finally said yes and being obedient. And this is off topic. When we decide to say yes, everything starts to fall in place. It's that obedience he's looking for, not for the plan itself. He just wants you to say yes. So I said yes. I went back to school, got 3 degrees, launched a business. Okay, I'm trying to grow my son to be a young man. And then he was like, launch this business. I said, okay, how are we gonna pay for it? What are we gonna do? He said, use what I gave you and put your degree to work. So that's what I did. For the past 5 years, I've assisted 30 aspiring entrepreneurs to launch their own nonprofit organizations, and they are all thriving. But everything I knew and who I am, who this leader I'm supposed to be, completely changed on May 7, 2018. I got an unexpected phone call that my daddy had passed. Unexpected. So everything shook me to my core. Everything that I thought I knew, I didn't know. I said, why God? I said, why me? Why now? Why him? He is such an amazing man. And this is a point in my life where I actually left him when I was 6, and my mom took us from Georgia in hopes of a better life so that we could be who she wanted us to be. So for years, I didn't see him again until I was 18. So we had 20 years of trying to figure out life when we were all we were separate. And I said, God, it's not enough time. I didn't do what I wanted to do. I didn't tell him what I wanted to tell him. He didn't see what Brandon, my son, is going to be. So why now? I was so very upset. And for 2 weeks, I sat in that. I cried and I prayed and I screamed and I vented and I questioned God, what is this that you're doing for us in this family in this moment right now? And I sat there, and after a while, I even tried going back to work after a week, and that was the wrong thing for me to do, because I got to work, and as soon as someone asked me how I was, I broke down crying. But I knew that I had to lead people. We were going through a major system conversion at work, and I was one of the main people who were facilitating the project. So I was like, okay, let me try to get myself back together. Let me see if I can go to work and I can continue to lead. I couldn't. So I left in the middle of the day. I was at the grocery store, and I was shopping for whatever, and I was walking down the milk aisle, and I look down the aisle and I see a father with his 2 children. I broke down in the store. I don't know what I had in my hand. It was put to the side. I ran out the store, and I was in the car, and I just had to break it down. So clearly I wasn't ready. But after 2 weeks, it's like, all right, you got to get yourself together. You have to figure out how you're going to continue to lead through this new space, this new environment that you're in. And I am grieving, and I'm grieving today. And I'll be able to share a little bit more as to why right now is the hardest time of the month for me. So after 2 weeks, I get back up, I go to work, and I'm like, okay, let's just continue this on. But as a leader, that is a heavy word. You have to have sympathy, you have to have empathy, you have to have the answer. You have to figure it out if you don't know it. I am the go-to person in many aspects of in the workplace and personally as well. And all we do is this. We do this. So when we don't get this back, it's hard, and I had nothing left at all, but I've started to figure it out. So there's 3 things that I want to share with anyone who is grieving right now, whether it's the loss of a loved one, maybe someone is in prison, or they're homeless, or they're in a situation that you don't expect for them to be in. It's something personally that you may be grieving with. Whatever it is, I just want to give you 3 things that has helped me. Now, I'm no doctor, I'm no therapist, I'm no clinician, I am none of that, but I am a woman who is grieving, and I am a woman who is leading. So the first thing that I had to do was identify. I had to identify my grief. What does that look like? And it's different for everybody. For me, because he passed on the 7th of the month, the 1st of the month is always hard for me. It took like 3 months for me to recognize what was happening, but I would fall into this state of sadness and depression and not wanting to deal with anybody and just wanting to be by myself. And as soon as I realized that, I started having conversations saying, you know what, guys? And this is to my boyfriend and to my son. I'm having a moment. Help me through my moment. They'll either let me be, they'll give me a hug, whatever it is. So as soon as I was able to identify it, I started to recognize the things that I needed to change. Every 7th of the month, today is the 1st of the month, we're 6 days away. These past 2 weeks have been rough. I knew this day was coming, and I knew that when Cheryl put out this call for speakers, that this is what I needed to talk about. Because this is not only helping me, but I'm hoping and praying that it's helping somebody. But these 2 weeks have been rough. And I'm doing everything I can to hold it together simply because I know what I'm here for. And I know that my daddy is looking down on me and he's very proud. So let's get back to the point here. So we have to identify the grief. What does that look like for yourself? If you can identify it, then you can find ways to cope with it. So the next step is to allow. Allow the grief, allow the emotions to happen, whatever it is. For me, it's crying, and sometimes it's prayer, and again, sometimes it's venting, sometimes it's reaching out to my family members, but figure out ways to allow yourself to allow the grief to come through so that you don't stay in that moment. If I would have stayed in that moment longer than 2 weeks, I probably would have lost my mind, because that's all I kept hearing, all I kept seeing. And when I had the epiphany that my father would never walk me down the aisle, and I'm not married, and I'm his only girl, that was another hit. It was another gut punch. So I lived that, but as I allow myself to grieve, it's getting better. And the last step is to heal. Every time I go through this on a monthly basis, I lose another piece of me. Every single time. So I have to learn how to heal. So healing for me is going to the movies, getting the tickets and getting some snacks and going with my guys. Healing may be binge watching. Healing is taking a vacation or reading or listening to some music, going to church and worshiping. That is the favorite place for me to be, because there I lay it all on the altar and leave it right where it is. Mm-hmm. That is how I'm able to heal. So when we identify the grief, then we allow the grief to happen. We're then able to repeat that process and to heal every single time. And grief is a process. It never goes away. It's not something you get over. It doesn't have a timetable, and it can hit you at any different time. But when you're in a leadership position, whether it's just leading yourself, you're leading your team, you're leading your family, you're leading your business, whatever it may be, it is going to come and it is going to disrupt your flow because it has no time frame. So we have to learn how to cope with those things. At work, I tell my employees, if you're having a bad day, make it be known so that we don't get offended. So there's many days where I walk in and say, ladies, I'm having a bad day. And they understand that. And they allow me to be that and be in that space. We have to be open and honest with ourselves. And we have to realize that it's okay to not be okay, as everybody says. Every day is not going to be a good day. I take mental health days. When I'm having a moment, I have a lot of PTO, a lot of it. So, okay, I earned it, so I'm going to use it. So I take mental health days because I know, like this around a time of the month, I'm not in the office as much because I know what's coming. And I don't want to be in that position where I am hindering the success of the office because I know what I'm getting ready to deal with. Now, I can't do this every month, and I'm not saying that you guys have to do this every month, but find little things that allow you to cope with your grief. At lunch, go listen to an audiobook. Watch something that's motivational. You know, on your way into work, find something that's going to help you to get through that day. And if you are grieving the loss of a loved one, then reach out to those family members because they're going through the exact same thing that you're going through. And you guys can help each other. So in this leading while grieving environment, this new world that I am now living in, and this new world that you may now be living in, allow yourself to be everything to yourself before you can be anything to anybody else. Okay? What our family has learned from this moment is that we needed to get closer together. So we're in a season now of what am I supposed to learn from this? Because I don't have the answer yet. But in the interim, what are we supposed to learn from this? And my brothers are like, we need to get together more. So we had our first family vacation down in Florida. We rented out a house, it had a pool, and we had fireworks, and it was good. We talked about daddy, and you know, it allowed us to come together in that healing step that I was talking about. So every year now, we're planning a family trip or family vacation so that we can come together, okay? So again, grieving is a process. It never goes away. It is now a part of my life. And if you're grieving, it's now a part of your life as well. But if we can identify, allow, heal, and repeat, we can be better leaders for ourselves, those spaces that we're in, and those environments that we're trying to create. And I'm so thankful for the opportunity to share, because 7 years ago, I couldn't have done this. But again, God said, I'm gonna move you from behind here, and I'm gonna put you in places where my name may have been spoken in this room, I don't know. But when we're leading, our names are gonna be in places in people's mouths that we don't even know yet, okay? So we have to be open and ready for that opportunity, and we can't do that if our grief has sucked us in. What I will also say is, and it's a stigma in the Black community, is get some help. Get some counseling. If I feel I need counseling, I'm gonna go get it. I don't think I need that right now, There have been some times where we're like, you know what, is it helpful for me to go and get some support? But I'm not adverse to it. If I feel that I need it, I will go out and get it. And in your healing process, I will add one more thing. Find people who you can depend on. And it's not the people that you think is going to be. I have complete strangers reach out to me and give me words of encouragement when I announced that I had lost my father unexpectedly. And they're still there. And I'm not saying family wasn't there, because they are, but when somebody that you don't know is able to, and you can touch them to the point where they want to reach out to you and give you constant support over this past year and a half, it's amazing to me. And if you don't have the right people in your circle, you need to change it. Not even just personally and professionally, but you got to be able to get people that can deposit some things into you so that you're a better person. So changing your circle. And like I said, you cannot be anything to anybody until you're everything to yourself.
Amen.
You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter at Jamila Kemp. If you would like to look up information about the nonprofit we started, It Takes Two Incorporated, and I thank you so much for this opportunity, and I hope and pray that you are able to continue life while you're leading through your grieving process.